Hey friends, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our half-acre homestead. And in this big canner, it has been soaking, all my cucumbers that I picked the other day have been soaking in cold salt water. I've been putting ice in it. And we're going to be making 3 kinds of pickles today. I have 3 bowls of cold salted ice water, and I'm going to be making regular pickles, spear pickles, and bread and butter pickles, so I have to keep these all separate. Okay, so what I'm doing is these, I have cut the blossom end off of these big ones. And these, anything I grab is going to go in one of these bowls. These are for the bread and butter pickles. Now what I've done is I have soaked these in ice water and salt. I am not using alum. I am not using alum, okay? I will be using, see, this is really, it's almost hollow on the inside. Just going to cut these swaths of seeds out. And no, they're not big enough. They're not big enough to be saved for seed. So these are going in that bowl. These have been in ice water and salt for 2 days. No alum. You can leave them in the water as long as the water is kept cold, which I have been doing with topping it up with ice. And believe you me, folks, I am going to have to go out and pick more cucumbers tonight for more pickles. Because once they start, they're kind of like beans. You got to start them, do them every couple of days. And we're going away to Kingston for a couple of days. Never ever tell people what to say, you know, in public that you're going away. Why? Because you're letting the whole world know you're not going to be home. Fortunately, I have security cameras and neighbors that keep an eye on things when we go away. Even for a weekend. It was funny when we were at the track, my neighbor emailed me and said, if you see a vehicle coming into your driveway on, no, I'm not making relish because I have a ton of relish from the last couple of years. She said, if you see a car in your driveway, it's me. I heard we're having a storm and I heard the wind, I heard a tree fall. So I went to check. God love my good neighbors, eh? So here is my big bowl of spears. My tub of chopped cucumbers for bread and butter pickles. And my bowl for regular dill pickles. That's what I'm working on next. Now I have a pound of onions here roughly. And I'm just going to peel them. And then I'm going to slice them for the bread and butter pickles. Now the reason I'm going to be doing this in specific order, and the reason I'm doing that is because the easiest ones have to be made first, and that's going to be my big pickles. And if they do not fit all in the jar, then I can cut them up and put them in the bread and butter pickles or in the pickle spears, right? So now I'm just going to cut these onions. Now you can use whatever onions you like. If you wanted to buy little pearl onions and put them in there, that's fine too. I'm using what I got. I'm not using my small cube for bread and butter pickles because they're going into dill pickles. Right now I have my big chip pickle jar in the canner boiling because my first jar of pickles, we don't bath can. The rest we will. Okay, the first one we're doing is our big jar of dill pickles. So I'm going to make my brine. And here's a hint. If you have to buy dill and it's like this, cut the bottoms off and put them in a cold glass of water. It'll last longer. Okay. Now, the only measurement you need to know about this is whatever you use to put your vinegar in, use it to measure your water too. So here is 1 cup of vinegar, 2 cups of water. That should be enough, but I'm going to add another half a cup of vinegar and another cup of water. So it's 1 part water or vinegar to 2 parts water. That's a lot. Okay. Now, I'm going to add two heaping tablespoons of salt, or about 1/8 cup. We're going to bring this to a boil. Now, I do reuse pickle jars. Just make sure the lid isn't that the lid is in good shape and the seal is in good shape, that there's no rust or anything. Now, while our brine comes up to a boil, these are black raspberry leaves. You can use raspberry leaves, black raspberry leaves, grape leaf. These contain tannins. This is why I didn't soak my pickles in ice water and alum. I'm going to put 4 cloves of garlic in here. And while I'm waiting, I'm going to put these jars into boil. Now we're going to start packing these pickles in the jar. Anything really long, put down, or fat, put down in first. Give it a shake. Shake everything down as far as you can. Well, okay, that'll be supper. And we're going to take a nice hunk of dill here. It can be a dill head, it can be dill seed. This is what's been available to me. Here's our brine, boiling. Make sure these are all pushed right down in. And you pour this up to overflowing. Anything left over I will set aside for my spears. Put that on tight. And set that aside. Okay, my jars have been boiled. I'm going to go ahead and make the brine for my spears using the same. I am making this brine stronger than normal. There is 2 cups of vinegar, and we're going to put it in there. And I'm going to add a 1/4 cup. I'm going to say closer to a 1/2 cup. 1/3 cup of coarse pickling salt or coarse kosher salt. And we're going to bring that to a boil. Canning water for the spears is going to be not boiling. This is an approved method because of the amount of salt and vinegar. They don't have to be boil bath. They could be, you know, but the jars do have to be, they've come out of boiling water. And now our canning pot is on a simmer. We're going to put it on medium. We want it to be roughly 140 degrees. Simmering, but no bubbling, okay? Now let's get these jars filled up with our spears. Here's our spears. They have been drained and rinsed after soaking in salted ice water, both while they were whole and now while they are in spears. Now I'm just going to start, I'm going to put a clove of garlic in each jar, 2 if they're small. I don't know how well you can see, so I'll move one of these over. No, I guess you can see okay. Now I'm using 750 ml jars. If you're going to do pint jars, make sure you cut the tops off your cucumbers, the blossom end, to be sure they're going to fit in the pint jar as far as I can. And it doesn't look like they're going to go down much farther. Okay. And in goes a piece of dill. If you're using dill seed, I'm going to say a teaspoon. Okay? This might be, they might go in better if I do it like this. I don't normally make pickle spears because, well, I'm not particularly fond of them, but Howie is. So he said, go ahead and make them, he'll eat them. So here's our brine. These are like a 1/2 inch to 1 inch from the top. You don't have to debubble these, but it wouldn't hurt to run, you know, something down around just to make sure. Okay, this is the way we want them. You see how hot this is? We don't want it bubbling, so we want it on between medium and minimum with a lid on. We're not boiling them, we're slow process canning them. So they're going to be in this water for a couple of hours. So now we're going to make the brine for our bread and butter pickles. I'm going to take 1.5 cups of packed brown sugar with the same amount of vinegar. Like that. We're going to put this on the burner to get it cooking, and we're going to add about a teaspoon of salt, pickling salt, about a teaspoon of celery seed. That wasn't quite enough. There we go. You can use mustard seed, but all I have is mustard powder. So I'm going to put in about 1/2 teaspoon of mustard powder. Don't look at what I'm doing, listen to the instructions. And about a teaspoon of turmeric powder. Okay? And we're going to bring this up to a boil until all the sugar's dissolved while we rinse our vegetables. Now that this is all the sugar and everything's melted, put my rinsed vegetables in here. Now listen, folks, you don't have to have perfect cucumbers to make perfect bread and butter pickles. I'm using these because they're too big to be used for anything else. But please, folks, always use pickling cucumbers for pickles. Why? Because regular table slicing pickles, they just don't turn out the same. Okay? So we're going to bring this up and get this simmering for about 10 minutes. Okay, these have been on this slow process for about 1.5 hours. So now I'm going to very carefully take these out and set them on this bath mat. Now remember, the brine was hot and boiling. I've never done this before, so we will soon see how these go. And there they are. Now I'm going to turn this pot on to boil while I get my bread and butter pickles together. Okay, so here is our bread and butter pickles, nice and hot. We're going to get ready, get our jars out of the oven that have been washed and rinsed. And now we're going to start filling our jars with our bread and butter pickles. Push them on down to 1 inch from the top. Make sure they're covered with liquid. Basically, debubble. Get another jar out. Ha 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 ha. And you can't really see what I'm doing, can you? Okay, so wipe the rim with a clean damp paper towel. On goes the lid. On goes a ring. Fingertip tight. And into the boiling bath canner this goes. Now, these jars are covered, like my other pickles, were covered with 1 inch to 2 inches of water. Now, as soon as these come up to a boil, I'm going to time them for 20 minutes for pints, 25 minutes for quarts. Remember, these went into hot pickles into hot jars into hot water. Our timer has gone off. These have been boiling for 20 minutes, and I'm just going to take them out, put them on the counter. This recipe gave me 6 pints of bread and butter pickles. 6 pints of bread and butter pickles, 6 3/4 quarts, which are already popping down, of pickled spears, and 1 big jar of dill pickles. This is the Mrs. Wolfe from our half-acre homestead saying, 3 kinds of pickles, 1 afternoon. I'm going to say that's work well done. Mwah! Take care. God bless.